What is up, fam? Thank you so much for tuning in to So Real Sports Talk. My name is So Real Sunil. I have my main man over to the side of me, the solemn Jessie Naylor, right now. Man, Jesse, so 3-game losing streak, man. Who thought we was gonna be here, right? 3 weeks ago, we were all talking about this stretch of games with Green Bay, Seattle, and Arizona. Most people thought it was going to be, 2-1 in some strange fashion. Ended up being 0-3, man.
Yeah.
Going into the week.
What up, Korean 49er? Good to see you.
Yeah, so I mean, we got a lot to talk about. But before we get into it, because clearly, there is going to be a lot of critiques that we're going to make. I thought we'd start off positive because you know how I am, man. Let's give some praise. And the first person I want to give a round of applause to is DeMeco Ryans, Jesse. I think that he has gone above and beyond what anybody's expectations could be of him. I think about this back-to-back schedule that just happened. Aaron Rodgers into Russell Wilson into Kyler Murray. Not one of those quarterbacks had the type of game that they were accustomed to, and it was all because of the defensive scheming and how well DeMeco Ryans had this defense ready to play. So to me, he's been the breath of fresh air in a tumultuous 49ers season up until this point. Jesse, what did you think about the way DeMeco Ryans called this game? And is there anybody else that you wanted to give praise to?
It's not just this game, Sunil. DeMeco Ryans all year has been a better coach, better play caller, better schemer than the veteran himself, who is supposed to be an offensive genius, Kyle Shanahan. Mm-hmm. And that shouldn't be the case. I'm sorry. With all the injuries that they've had, for him against those quarterbacks to call those types of games, I can't say enough good things about DeMeco. There was the only time that I thought that he didn't call, the best game was probably that Packer game. But even then, I don't put it on him. I feel like his defense did enough to win that game too. And the offense has been stagnant regardless of who's been at quarterback. And there's only one person that you can blame for that, and that's Kyle Shanahan. To me, it's all the best players today were on defense. You look at whether it's Bosa, Armstead is a player that I've been all over. He played a great game. DJ Jones had a good game. I felt like Warner had a good game. The corners played pretty good. I don't know. I just felt like the defense altogether was coached up. This is the second week in a row that they've done more than enough to win a game, and they were just unable to do so.
We have played back-to-back mobile quarterbacks, which has been our Achilles heel forever with this 49ers team. And neither of these quarterbacks was effective with their legs to a point that has been in previous seasons. And I mean, we've always said gap integrity, gap integrity, gap integrity. It's not until DeMeco Ryans became defensive coordinator that these guys actually stood pat. And you talked about Eric Armstead. He gets a lot of criticism and gets a lot of shade thrown at him, but he played well this game. And, because of that, Kyler Murray wasn't able to just break away with his legs. And there was a lot more 3-and-outs. The telecast constantly said this is pretty much the worst that the Cardinals offense has ever looked. And that was because of that defense for sure.
Yeah, the defense did their job again. Really, every single game, I felt like the defense has done their job. To be real with you, they've done enough to be 5-0 in my opinion.
Yep, I agree. And obviously, the biggest news was Trey Lance, right? Trey Lance was the starter. He played the whole game. Tell me what you thought. I know you're a huge Trey Lance fan. You've had his coaches on before. You're as tapped into Trey Lance and what he's capable of as anybody that, we have on these shows. So tell us, Jesse, what your overall analysis was of Trey Lance.
You know what? I have to say this and I get it. I come across as like the biggest pusher for Trey Lance because I was all about him preseason before he was drafted and all those things. But if I've shown anything other than I'm 100% honest in what I see and 100% real in what I see, please let me know, because I feel like I've been very fair in giving criticism to whoever. I don't think Trey Lance played a perfect game. I don't think Trey Lance is a perfect quarterback. But I can tell you this, for that being his first start against the best team in the NFL, as I currently see it, as everybody should currently see it, because they're the only undefeated team after 5 games, on the road without George Kittle, throwing a pick on his first drive. They had more designed runs for Trey Lance than they did the running backs. So for a guy that quote unquote isn't ready to put the ball in his hands 45 times that game, and for him to do what he did after throwing a pick his first drive, being the youngest quarterback to ever start in the NFL, if anybody came away from that game with anything but encouragement, I don't know what you were watching. I'm sorry. I can't go. Like there's too much criticism being thrown at this kid for being 21 years old. You can't tell me that Jimmy would have won that game. You can't tell me that he didn't make throws. Probably there's 4 throws I can count that he made that our other quarterback simply couldn't make. In fact, I'm not even going to call him Jimmy anymore. He's just our other quarterback. There's 4 throws that he made that our other quarterback simply couldn't make. Was it perfect? No. But I can also tell you that there were throws that he passed up that our other quarterback would have made as far as checkdowns, where he needs to get better at those things. So yes, there's room for improvement. There's a lot of things that Trey needs to improve on, but you should be encouraged by this start, and he should be the start of the rest of the season, period. And he's probably not going to be. I don't see why not, but there's too much there's too much box score watching. Nobody watched this game apparently if they came away with Trey Lance was anything but encouraging and improving literally every time that he has stepped on the field, whether it's game to game, play to play, series to series, quarter to quarter. He seems to me like he's picking up the game more and more and more and just getting better every single time he takes the ball.
Right. A lot of people agree with you, Jesse. Trey needed to get this game out of the way. Hopefully he will get better. I think we all agree he will get better. Josh G, we would have gotten blown out with Jimmy. Very real possibility. The drop passes did not help, but man, the upside is promising, says Harold Murillo. NJ49 Izzy, preach, Jesse. Agree on all of it. Keneal Mason, no way Jimmy would have won. Yeah, man. Look, Trey throwing the ball needs a lot of work.
Bring Chewy's comment up. Bring Chewy's comment up for me, because he and I have been going back and forth on Twitter.
He can't.
What were you watching? What, seriously, Chewy, what were you watching? Tell me how he can't throw. Outside of one throw before the half that he was wildly inaccurate on, where he overthrew the ball and threw a pick, could he not throw when he hit Ayuk on that out route in the perfect place? Could he not throw? I get when Ayuk made the one-handed grab. That was in a perfect spot. Even the Debo catch, it was a hell of a catch, but it couldn't have been thrown any better. The other throw where he hit Sanu on the 4th and 4 or whatever it was, could he not throw on that? Come on, Chewy. You can't sit here and say that I'm biased one way and then be completely biased the other way. Like, I'm not going.
Yeah, I mean, Chewy's my guy, but to say
I love Chewy. No. Let me be clear about that. I love Chewy. Chewy is not afraid to speak his opinion, but you cannot sit here and tell me how biased I am and then make a comment like he can't make any throws. Like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a oversimplification of what happened in the game to say he can't throw. He definitely can throw. He put some balls there. He has velocity on his throws. But is there room for improvement in his passing game? Yes, that's the biggest room for his improvement. Some decision making could have been a little bit better. There was a throw to Ayuk that was high and he probably threw it a little bit too hard as well for what the distance was where he was to that. A lot of balls were batted down, but I put that more on the offensive line than on, Trey. But the reason why I believe that Trey should be the starter moving forward is there are things that Trey can do that Jimmy just can't do, and namely with his legs. I mean, there was some first downs that Trey was able to get that Jimmy just can't get. He doesn't move as quick as that. He isn't as big as Trey, and he's not definitely quick or fast enough either. The deep game is more available with Trey Lance, and I think that is going to get better when Kittle gets back in the game, and when if that offensive line could get a lot better as far as let this running game breathe a little bit more and be able to be the strength of the team once again. But the reason why I think Trey should start the most is we already know what this team looks like with Jimmy, and we know the ceiling that Jimmy has. Jimmy's had 4 full games of being, or let's say 3.5 full games of being the starter for the 49ers, and this offense wasn't that great. The offense was only good against certain opponents, and that too, I've listed the numbers. The Detroit Lions gave up 31 points per game. That offense was able to only put up 34 points, so a little bit better than average. Every other game since then, the offense has been below or right at average of what the defenses that they were playing had been putting up, and more times than not, it was below the average. So this offense has been anemic with Jimmy. I don't think Jimmy's going to get any better. We see what Jimmy's going to be, and that's the best he could be. There isn't a new dynamic that Jimmy's going to be able to tap into that makes this offense any better. However, with Trey, he is going to get better. He's going to get more. He's going to get better with his passing. He already has the mobility, and he's going to be able to make plays with his legs that are just unscripted. And I also believe that if Trey is in there, Kyle Shanahan is going to get better with his play calling when he starts realizing exactly what Trey can do in the game, right? There's one thing in practice. There's another thing to see how he is able to read defenses and what he's capable of doing and what he's limited at doing. And I think all of that is going to play a role in actually making this offense better, because let's be honest, that's the only reason why the 49ers are losing, is because this offense can't score. Yes, there's a lot of penalties. Yes, there's some turnovers that need to be cleaned up. But all of these games, if the offense could put up more points, Jesse, like you said, we'd be undefeated right now if it was this offense that could score.
I have something to say, too. I know that we gave a lot of praise to this defense. Trey's a big reason why that defense was able to play the way they were, and I'll tell you how that's possible. This team had 1 3-and-out on offense. One. The one turnover that he had, he didn't put them in a horrible situation. They got the ball at like their own 30-yard line. It's not like they were inside the 49ers 40 ready to score. So Trey moved the ball. The offense gave the defense plenty of time to rest. And this was the first time. I get that the points weren't there, and I put that on Shanahan. And I've been on Shanahan all season for his play calling. I think he's had moments where I've said he's in his bag, but he certainly hasn't had a game at all where I've said, wow, Kyle's really in his bag this game. I think that situationally, Kyle has been very bad as well. So it's not all on Jimmy, right? I'm not saying that those other losses, I don't know why I said his name. I didn't mean to. I don't know why I'm not saying those other losses were on the other quarterback, but I will say this, the head coach needs to be, if you make a switch at quarterback and you still have trouble scoring points, at some point it's on the head coach, right? So, but Trey Lance extended a lot of drives. Even when they were 2nd and 25, they still got a first down. They still were able to get a first down and avoid a 3-and-out. 1 3-and-out all game. And there was multiple penalties that put them in terrible situations. There were drops. There was a drop by Sanu that should have extended a drive. There was 2 decisions to take points off the board when you had points. So for all of that to go against this offense, for Kittle to not be in the game, for you to be on the road against the best team in football, and for you to not, quote unquote, be ready, but you had more design carries for you than the running backs, Trey's ready. Trey's more than ready. And if you think that if this is as bad as it gets and it was still good enough to win a game, or in my opinion was good enough to win a game, then going forward, it's only going to get better. There's no reason to hold this kid back anymore.
I agree. And I had tweeted last week sometime that Trey being the starter is going to unlock what this defense is capable of. And this defense dominated. Look, I tweeted it during the game. The Arizona Cardinals averaged 35 points per game. and they put up a lot of points against the Rams, who supposedly have, one of the best defenses in the league. They only put up 17 points, and that was a struggle to put up 17 points against this defense, right? Kyler Murray didn't have the type of game. I'm sure all of the fantasy owners on that owned Kyler and started him are upset about, his performance. And you got to give credit where credit is due. Look, this secondary is supposed to be the most terrible secondary ever. That's all I've been hearing. The secondary is terrible. The secondary is terrible. But this secondary has played back-to-back-to-back games, some of the best receivers in the league. And yeah, these receivers have been able to score touchdowns, but none of them have had a super breakout game, with the exception of maybe Devontae Adams with Green Bay. But Tyler Lockett didn't have a huge game. Metcalf didn't have a huge game. Green didn't have a huge game. And, Hop got his, but Hop's the best receiver in the league. So of course he's going to, if you keep them in the game, he's going to get his eventually. But yeah, I mean, I think Trey opens up a lot of possibilities for the 49ers. And more than that, look, we're going to talk about it, but there's no other player on this roster that can help this team get better other than Trey. Jimmy's not going to get that much better. Nobody else is really going to get, that much better that has the impact at quarterback like Trey does. So if this team is about, hey, let's salvage this season, let's get better, there's no better player than putting in Trey Lance for him to learn the game and get better, because that's the only way this team's going to get better right now. The defense is already where it's at, and it's good enough to be, us to win games. It's just the offense. So let the man cook, right?
The 49ers had 338 total yards to Arizona's 304. The 49ers averaged 5.7 yards per play to Arizona's 5.1. And the time of possession was 31 minutes and 54 seconds in the favor of the 49ers. So if Trey Lance isn't ready, tell me how they just outdueled an offense in every major statistical category, if that's the case.
I love that you just listed those numbers, because you would think that with those numbers, we should win. Because last week was the same thing. The numbers, if you just looked at the numbers, you would think that the 49ers won. But once again, the 49ers lost. So, Jesse, where did this game go wrong?
I think that the game went wrong when they went forward on those fourth downs. I think that was it. I think that. Okay, so
you mean in the first half, not the second half, right? The first.
I'm talking about three of what they went forward on fourth downs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 2 in the first half, 2 in the second half.
Okay, so 3 out of those 4 first downs I take issue with, or fourth downs I take issue with. All the ones where it was a one-score game. So basically, the one where they converted, I had no issue with. And I tried to do a good job of tweeting out before they actually went for it, or before the result, just to let people know, hey, I'm not with this play, or I am, you know what I mean? Or I am with this play. And anytime that, okay, here's the way that I see it with fourth downs. Anytime that it is a one-possession game, unless your defense is unable to get stops, which that was not the case, or it's the last drive of the game, not the case again, there's no reason to be going for it on those fourth downs. The only other scenario where you go for it on a fourth down is if you don't have a kicker. Last week, where they decided to kick field goals. Yeah, this time they actually should have kicked those field goals, because they could have had 6 points. They would have gone into the locker room with it being a 10-6 game, and that game is completely different. In fact, they would have had the lead when would it end up being 10-7? It would have been 13-10. That game's completely different. That game plays out completely different. If that defense is playing the way that they are, and they don't go for it on those fourth downs in that first half, then you add in the fourth down in the second half where they got the turnover and they went for it anyways, calling the same exact play that you just called 2 weeks ago that everybody knows is coming. I don't know, man. I thought not only were the decisions to go for it on fourth down bad, but the play calling was not good on those either. So I just think that's where the game took a turn. And again, that's why I put it on Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there's always timely errors and lack of execution that tend to make this game like fall apart for the 49ers, right? I know you have. I think. Let me let you go real quick. So Chewy put up, y'all keep covering your eyes to what's happening. They went for it because they knew they weren't going to be able to score, and they had no confidence in the offense led by Trey. That's the reason they went for it. Well, let me just say, because I know you have a lot to say about this, Chewy, and I don't want this to be bash the Chewy segment or anything like that, because Chewy, you're my guy, and you could be on this show whenever you want to. But to me, this is counterintuitive. So if they don't believe in an offense that's led by Trey, then you score the points that you could score because you don't believe that you're going to be in scoring position again, right? You take the points at that point, because points are what causes the game to be won or lost. It's not how many yards you gain and all that kind of stuff. So if they don't believe that Trey's going to be able to make this offense score, then you take any opportunity you can to score points. At least that would be my mentality. It wouldn't be go for it on 4th down, because at that point you could lose points, which is what inevitably happened. Your turn, Jesse.
Yeah, I don't. That blows my mind. They had one less total first down in the whole game than Arizona did. They won the time of possession. They had more yards. I don't understand how that could be the case. That doesn't make any sense to me. Then I guess we don't trust Kyler Murray is going to score either, because if you look at the numbers, Trey Lance put up more. He put up as many rushing yards almost by himself as the Cardinals' whole offense did. He had almost as many passing yards as Kyler Murray. He had only 1 3 and out. He had almost as many first downs and had a better time of possession. So I guess we don't trust Kyler Murray either. We don't trust the right now MVP of the league. I don't. Do you trust Kyler Murray? I don't.
But let me get back to what I was talking about. So this game is lost to me because the 49ers tend to not execute in inopportune moments, right? So last week it was the Cannon fumble at the tail end of the game that put Seattle back in scoring position, and then ended up they going up by more points instead of us being able to drive down when we had the momentum and score. And this, again, like you said, was lack of execution. Now, whether or not the decision to go for it is the decision at that point it was made, the execution of that play wasn't good. You know what I mean? Like, having to go horizontal to score 1 yard versus just going vertical, to me is just, it doesn't make sense to me. And then that use check play was good when it was a yard that needed to be gained, not when it was close to 2 yards that needed to be gained, right?
Right.
So like, for me, it's just and whether or not it's Kyle Shanahan or not, I mean, I tend to believe it is Kyle Shanahan. I think he tends to overthink himself. When he didn't have a kicker, he was going for it all the time. When he does have a kicker, he chooses to go for it on every single 4th down. To me, that it's just lack of execution, man. And it's just like, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. I can't put it on the opposite team for any of these losses. It's always something that we did that caused us to lose, which I guess silver lining is that's a good thing, because at least you can take control of that and fix it. But it just hasn't been fixed in the last 3 weeks, at least.
The second drive of the game, they ran 3 quarterback powers. That's the second drive. You haven't even started to unload all the plays that you have available to you, and you ran 3 quarterback powers. 2 of them, I think one was on the 3rd down and one was on a 4th down, back-to-back plays. That's the best you can come up with is quarterback power with all the weapons that you have at your disposal. You rolled out Trey Lance. I want to say designed rollouts. I might be wrong on this, but I can only remember one, and that was on the 4th down when you were trying to make him run it in for a touchdown. So you don't roll out a mobile quarterback. You run him more than you do your running backs against a team that can't stop the run, and you don't trust him, but you made sure that out of your, 57 or so offensive plays that he had the ball 45 of them, but he's not ready. That's the most contradictory thing I've ever seen a coach say and then do. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Another thing that really blows my mind is there's two weapons on this offense that, when given the chance, do electric things that seem to just not get the ball. And that's Brandon Ayuk and Trey Sermon. And clearly there's something going on between their relationship with Kyle Shanahan, because anytime by accident Ayuk gets thrown the ball, something wild happens. And he got targeted 3 times this game. One ball was overthrown, like over his head. There was no way he was going to be able to catch it. The other 2 balls shouldn't have been caught, and they ended up being caught. One, I got to give props to Trey. He threw it on only a place that Brandon Ayuk could catch it, and Ayuk made the catch. And then the second one was all Ayuk, bodying a guy and catching the ball with one hand. Like, elite ball skills, elite wide receiver play. Trey Sermon last week averaged 4.7 yards per carry and 0 pressures when he was back there as far as in pass protection. This week, he got the ball 1 time and was able to beat a guy around the edge that should have been a play that got blown up, tackle for loss, and ended up gaining like 6 yards on the play. Neither of them were utilized that thoroughly through this game. I get it that Debo is a beast, and that's going to be wide receiver 1, but Kittle wasn't in the game this week. Why not get the ball to Ayuk a little bit more? Why is Sanu getting the ball more? Then why is Benjamin on the
why is Benjamin even on the field?
On the field instead of Ayuk or even Juwan Jennings,
or Sherfield.
Or Sherfield, right? I don't know. To me, that's the most perplexing thing is, what has Trey Sermon and Brandon Ayuk done that caused Kyle Shanahan to just act like they're not even on the team right now?
Well, I mean, if you listen to Kyle, he has reasons for it, but then he comes out the week that Ayuk played pretty much every snap of the game. He says, well, I talk about the rotations before the game, but throughout the game, that's on Wes Welker. So however many plays he played, that's on Wes. So, 1 week he calls all the decisions and he's the reason why he isn't on the field. And the next week when he is on the field, he doesn't make those decisions. So I don't know. I don't know if he's in a doghouse. I don't know if he doesn't make the decisions. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know what Kyle does and doesn't do. It sounds like he doesn't know what he does and doesn't do sometimes.
Yeah, but it was just I thought that Ayuk was going to be utilized more in this game because, 1, he's a deep threat, and 2, he's good. But
Ayuk's so good. Oh my gosh, he's so good. Ayuk is really good. The fact that he's not playing more is crazy. He's really good. Really, really good.
And Trey Sermon is too, man. Trey Sermon is a good running back. And I think that Elijah Mitchell is a great running back as well. They should be a 1-2 combo. We should have our 3 rookies in the backfield at one point or another. And this running game will get better if all of them were fresh and being able to just run. And Trey Sermon could be there in third down in pass protection. Like, it doesn't need to be an open backfield where, especially, and we're going to move on to it right now, especially with the way this offensive line is playing. And Jesse, tell us, what is going on with this offensive line? We're seeing, last week it was all the bad snaps from Alex Mack. This week, so many batted balls down, which usually means the offensive line is not engaging as much as they need to with these defensive linemen. And this running game, even though, Elijah Mitchell was back there and, running pretty well, it isn't the dominant run game that we expected to see, from this offense. So tell us what's going on with this offensive line. Do you think that there's an issue there, or am I just seeing things?
Yeah, the offensive line hasn't been perfect by any means, and there was some questionable holding calls and whatever happened this game. Actually, I personally don't think the offensive line had a horrible game. I really don't. Not a fan of the batted balls, multiple batted balls. That is definitely usually an offensive line thing. But, the offensive line wasn't horrible. They just didn't commit to running the ball with their running backs. I mean, I think that the running backs, I could be wrong, but it was like 4.6 or 4.8 yards per carry. But they only Mitchell had 9 and Sermon had 1. That's 10 total carries with your running backs. It's just, there's no commitment there. For a run-first team, again, we're 5 weeks into the season. What is this team's identity on offense? What is the identity? I thought it was supposed to be running the ball. And when it's running the ball, it should be with your running backs, not your quarterback. Running quarterback power 3 times in a drive and all these other designed run plays that you have with him, it doesn't make sense. Obviously you want to utilize his legs a little bit. You have to put the team on notice. And again, if he decides to keep it on an
option route,
on like an option or a choice, that's one thing. But when you legit design more running plays for your quarterback than your running backs, that's you not committing to the run, in my opinion. So I don't think the offensive line was perfect. I also don't think that they were horrible this game. Even the 2 holding penalties I think it was on the same drive where McGlinchey got one and Williams got one. I actually didn't have an issue with those. I think that it was close. And Williams, for sure, I think he avoided a sack by holding, right? Maybe it would have been a strip fumble because Lance didn't see it coming. And then the other one was close as well. So I didn't really have a big issue with those holding calls. I don't think the offense was horrible today. I think that they did a good enough job. I think there was times where Lance had, plenty of times to make decision. But they definitely need to improve for sure. It's just, this game to me was not the worst of the games that they've had this season.
Paul Perryman has an answer to your what is the identity. It's a secret identity, Jesse. It's a secret identity.
There we go. It is a secret because we're 5 games in and I don't know the answer to that secret.
So I'm way more down on this offensive line than you are. And okay. I tweeted today, this season was doomed the minute that the 49ers chose to go after Alex Mack instead of Corey Linsley. And Alex Mack has been a complete failure in my eyes. All offseason, I'll admit, I thought he was going to be the game changer for this offensive line because of the quality of center he has been in the past. I thought he still had at least a year or 2 left in him at a very high level. But he has been not even mediocre. He has been below average as a center. I thought that he was going to be able to be the leader that we needed, that we lost ever since slipping on the left tackle that we had before.
Richford?
No.
Staley.
Ever since Staley left, we haven't had a true leader on this offensive line. I thought Mack was going to come in and take over that role. But this offensive line is getting pushed around. And other than Trent Williams, everybody has been suspect in certain plays. And, when Trent Williams does make a mistake, it's like you said, it's a 1,000 IQ kind of mistake that he's making because he's saving a sack or he's saving like maybe something that could have been a turnover. McGlinchey is playing. He's just every single play. It's like he's just getting pushed backwards, right? Brunskill has been always left something to be said. Tomlinson is, I don't know, just quiet. And Mack has been terrible in my eyes. And this, I know that Shanahan wants to run the ball. Like that's his whole offense. He's been bottom 3 as far as number of attempts per game passing ever his whole career when he's been offensive coordinator or coach. The fact that he's not running the ball, Jesse, to me, is the fact that he realizes he doesn't have an offensive line that could help bust this running game open because there's no other reason. He's not a pass first or a pass heavy type offensive play caller. So the fact that the ball is that he's not just handing it off to these capable running backs, to me, is just he doesn't believe in this offensive line either.
Yeah, but you cannot throw the youngest quarterback to ever start a game in a situation where you just are not committed to running the ball unless it's with him. Like I just think that that's the worst thing that you can do. But I'm with you on the Linsley thing. I was huge. I said that they multiple times, and I tweeted it out again last week, and people tried to kill me for it. But tell me where I'm wrong. I mean, you could have gotten Linsley and Reif for the same price that you got Trent Williams, and that offensive line would have been just fine. Just fine. You would have, and in 2 years, when this team's actually ready to compete, this offensive line would have been in a very good shape. Instead, they're going to have like a 35-year-old Trent Williams who probably will still be really good, but he'll be getting paid a lot of money. He'll be getting paid like $10 million more a year than Linsley is. And you won't have Mac on this team. Hopefully at that point they will have replaced Mac through the draft or what have you. But having a really good center on this team for the next 6 years would have been really, really key for this team as they look to start to compete. And Lindsley and Reef would have been plenty good, probably better than what Mac and Trent's been. And Trent, by the way, probably the best left tackle in the game. This is not a Trent indictment. It's just the timing of this team and when they're actually ready to compete versus what he's going to be getting paid as he ages. I just think that was the wrong decision.
Excuse me. So look, we're on a 3-game losing streak going into the bye. A lot needs to change, I think. But Jesse, if you had to point your finger to, or put your finger on, what are the biggest changes that need to be made to salvage this season? What are those changes?
Well, I want to say this. I think the season, I expected them to lose this game. I looked at them as being 2-3 going into the bye week. And I looked at the rest of the schedule. The 49ers can still win 11 games. Most likely you're going to have a hiccup that you shouldn't have. So maybe they end up winning 10 games. I think this team is still a 10-win team and should be a 10-win team. And if your expectations are less than that, then I think that you're letting Shanahan off the hook. Shanahan needs to find a way to make this a 10-win team. They're going to be pretty damn healthy coming out of that bye week. And, they just have to make it happen. The biggest change is on Kyle Shanahan. He has to be better, period. Whether he decides to start the other guy or decides to start Trey, I think he needs to start Trey. I think that would be a mistake if he didn't. This is a time where I think these next 2 games should be won no matter what. And you're missing out on an opportunity to get him ready for the rest of this season. You get 3 games under his belt, and I expect that he's going to be really, really good and be a major difference maker for this offense as they head into that stretch run. But if you decide to start the other guy, that's fine. Start the other guy. You better find a way to win 10 games because it's still very, very feasible, and it should be the expectation. If this team doesn't win 10 games, it's nobody but Kyle's fault. He needs to be better.
Yeah, and I think that's accurate, but what needs to change? Like, how does it get better? Like, what is this better that we're going to see? Because, look, in the press conference, he was asked directly, is Trey Lance, are you even putting a thought into Trey Lance being the starter out of the bye week? And Shanahan didn't even hesitate. He said, no, that was a 1-game thing. Jimmy is our starter. As long as Jimmy's healthy, he's going to be the starter come, I guess that would be week 7 against the Colts. So for all intents and purposes, he's been pretty accurate. He's been pretty consistent with, if he says Jimmy's the starter, Jimmy's been the starter, right? So Jimmy's our starter. What changes need to be made so that 10-win season is an actual possibility?
Yeah, as far as what he needs to do offensively is, and I've said this a million times over. I said it so much during the Eagles game. I think I made my thumbs bleed through Twitter. But listen, they need to get horizontal, especially if Jimmy's playing. You're not going to be able to stretch the field vertically. That's okay. You can still win the games. You can still win these games, whether he's playing or not. You have to get horizontal, and you have to commit to this running game, regardless of who the running back is. You didn't want to commit against Green Bay because you didn't trust in Sermon for some reason. Then you did commit with Sermon against Seattle, and he looked pretty damn good. Then again, you don't commit against Arizona, who gives up tons of yards on the ground, big chunks. And when they did run the ball, there was multiple times that they had big chunk plays. So they have to get horizontal through the passing game. They have to get horizontal through the running game. And then that's going to open up everything over the middle, especially if the other guy is the starter. And if that's the case, then he does his best work throwing over the middle, but he can only do that as if the defense is stretched out. Not only does he have to get horizontal with the actual play calls, but he has to get horizontal with his receivers and spreading them out along the line of scrimmage pre-snap. There's too many times where he has bunched up play calling, which makes it very, very easy for defenses that are already expecting that the ball is going to come over the middle through the air. And now you're lining everybody up within a 12-yard perspective. It makes it really easy for them to just pinch down and play right over the middle and key in on your passing game. Spread those guys out along the line of scrimmage, get horizontal in the run game, get horizontal in the passing game, and then and only then can you be successful over the middle.
Yeah, I think, look, if Jimmy's going to be the quarterback, they have to figure out a way to extend these drives because this defense is pretty dominant as long as they're not on the field every 5 minutes, what it feels like with those 3-and-outs and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you can give them an opportunity to just like rest in between drives, this defense will always have you in a position to be able to win without scoring a ton of points, right? And I don't think that this offense is capable with Jimmy at the quarterback helm to consistently be an offense that's scoring 30 plus points per game. It's going to be between 14 and 24 points per game, I think, is what the 49ers can average with Jimmy Garoppolo pretty consistently. But like you said, the running game has to be paramount. Everything runs, and that's even if Trey is a starter, this running game needs to be the key. And when we were winning, the only winning season that Shanahan has had with the 49ers, I think they had a specific number of how many runs they needed to attempt per game. I remember Kittle used to say it. I forget what the number was, but it was like that number that they got to was
if they got to 30 runs, I think the number, it was 28 or 30. If they got to that, they said that anytime they got to that, they know that they won that game handily. And now they're getting to 10 runs in a game.
Yeah. And that mentality is completely changed. And I know people are like, they always kill me. They're like, oh, he's trying to be back in 2019 and all this kind of stuff. Look, I'm not saying that team is the same team. What I'm saying is there's certain aspects that cause that team to win. It's not idiotic to be like, why don't we just take the things that worked that season and continue to implement them with the team that we have right now? And one of those things was run the ball a lot, right? And even when the rushing game wasn't working, like it wasn't gaining the 4 or 5 yards per attempt, they would still keep doing it. And then in the third and fourth quarter, you started seeing these 40-yard touchdown runs, 60-yard touchdown runs, things like that, because the defensive line and that defense just got tired of constantly having to, play against the run. And that's just something that I think needs to go back. And that's even if Trey's a starter, you still need to be that team that only attempts 25 to 30 passes per game. And you're doing like 30 runs per game, right? And that should make the 60 offensive snaps that you get. And I don't know why. I don't know. That's one. And then the second thing is get Ayuk involved. Please get Ayuk involved because he is electric and he is a weapon that we're just wasting that I believe every other team in the league right now, Jesse, would want. And for some reason, he gets no run with Kyle Shanahan, the offensive genius. And if you haven't read my article on SI about why we need to be questioning Kyle Shanahan as an offensive genius, please go check it out. Jesse, so you mentioned 10 win, possibly 11 win. So with that being said, I'm assuming you believe that the 49ers can still make the playoffs then, right?
Yeah, they win 10 games. They're most likely in the playoffs. It'll be close, but they should make the playoffs as a 10-win team. So yeah, I absolutely do believe it. I think that the Colts game is going to be a win. I think the Bears game is going to be a win. And then all of a sudden you're 4-3 and you've got some divisional games coming up. But let's be honest. I mean, once you're in these division games, even if you are not the better team, you still have a chance to win those games. The division games, everything is out the window. Everything is out the window. The 49ers are absolutely going to win some division games. And they have some other very winnable games on the schedule. They have the Jaguars. They have the Bengals. They have the Falcons. So, yes, this team certainly can make the playoffs. It's going to have to be a lot better than what they are. But let's look at things with a glass half full mentality. All three of these games were losses, but all three of them easily could have been wins. They really could have won each and every one of these games. That has to be encouraging. To be a really good team, you have to win the games that you're supposed to win, and these games are ones that they were supposed to win. But that doesn't mean that has to be the outcome in every other close game throughout the rest of the season. If they can stay in these games and they've proven that they're not going to get blown out against anybody, as long as they can stay in these games, they have a chance to win. And I think that they are going to be in a lot of tight games. They just have to figure out a way to win. They have to figure out a way to limit 3-and-outs, and they have to figure out a way to stretch teams horizontally, and they'll be okay.
I love it. Harold has a question. Who wins the rematch?
I really think the 49ers can still win 3 games in this division. Even though they've lost 2, they're 0-2. They're going to split with the Rams most likely. I still think that they should split with Seattle and Arizona. I think that they can go 3-3 in this division. I really do.
Chewy with a great line. Kyle equals offensive genius, like Jimmy G equals elite quarterback. Cam Stewart shares the same sentiments as you. Still feeling good about week 7. So long as we move forward with Trey. It's a big if.
They're not going to. They're not. They're playing the other guy.
If Trey started from day one, what is their record? I'd argue 3-2.
I think they're 3-2 as well. Let me tell you why. I think no matter what they beat the Lions, I think no matter what they beat the Eagles. At that point, Trey has 2 games under his belt, and I have to believe that this offense wouldn't have been as stagnant for 3 straight games if Trey had been the starter with multiple games under his belt. So, yeah, I think they're 3-2 right now as well. I really do.
If Trey was starting, I think they only lose. I think they're undefeated. And
here's the thing.
The reason why, let me say why real quick. Because Trey at the helm allows this defense to be even more dominant. And that would that the other teams wouldn't have put up as many points as they did if Trey was at the quarterback position. Not because Trey, I think, will score more points than Jimmy. I think the defense would be even more dominant because even if Trey isn't scoring points, just with his legs, he's getting more first downs than I think Jimmy can get. And because of that, it gives the defense more time to rest, and quid pro quo or whatever it is, ipso acto, whatever, the defense would be more dominant. And we're talking about the difference between, I guess they can't be undefeated because Trey played right now. So, but Trey started from week 1. I think he wins this game.
Well, yeah, if Trey starts from week 1, he's a way different quarterback today than what you saw. I mean, there's no question about that. So I think you can sell me on the team being 5-0 with Trey a lot more than you can sell me on the team being 1-4, which is the, or 0-5. Like, they're certainly not going to be worse than 2-3. In worst case scenario, this team's still 2-3. I think best case scenario, it could have been 5-0, but I'm going to go 3-2 just to make it somewhat, realistic. I think saying 5-0 it's just hard to win games in the NFL, and to be 5-0 would be tough. But you can, like I said, you can sell me on that a lot more than you could sell me on 1-4 or 0-5. I'll tell you that.
Last question I have, and I think we both agree on this one. Let's say we even know what we think should happen, but based off of what you've heard from Shanahan, based off of what we've seen up until this point, who starts week 7 at quarterback in the Sunday night game against the Colts?
Yeah, I would say it's going to be Jimmy, but I got to be real with you. And I'm not saying that there's not an injury, but if you saw Jimmy warming up before that game, he looked like he could have went to me. So was this a decision to play Trey and use the injury as an excuse to get done what you wanted to get done, which was to play the rookie with Kittle not being there and having a voice in the locker room? Does that make it easier to play Trey? I'm going to say that there's most likely they play Jimmy, but if Kyle really wants to play Trey, he's got a good excuse that he could use right now. So we'll see. I hope it's Trey, but I think that it's probably going to be the other guy.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Jimmy as well. But Jesse, I know in the preseason, this is something Jack used to talk about, and I think you agreed with it as well. There was a point in the Chargers game in the preseason that Kyle Shanahan wanted Trey to win that starting job, not because he needed to see it, but more because of what the locker room needed to see, and that he could win over some of these guys that are Team Jimmy in the locker room, right? Do you think that with this performance, he has done enough to win over some of these guys like the Kittles, like the use checks, to name a few, like the McGlincheys, maybe even Trent Williams? Did he do enough in this game where these guys can look and say, hey, we might have a better chance with Trey than we do with Jimmy?
I don't know. I mean, it's tough to say. Kittle wasn't out there, right? So it's not like he was out there to help him. You know, I to me, like if I look at it, just looking at it from the outside in, I really think that Debo the whole time has been a Trey guy. I think Sanu has been a Trey guy. I think Ayuk's probably been a Trey guy. I think that Williams has been impartial, really didn't care either way. And I think Juszczyk and Kittle have certainly been for the other quarterback. So, you know, it's tough to say if those other guys are ever going to sway towards Trey's direction. But to me, the improvement of what we've seen, again, I was told that Trey couldn't start because look at how bad it looked in the preseason at times. And my whole argument the whole time was Trey would actually look better in the regular season because you are going to utilize everything at his disposal than what he looked like during the preseason. And you can box score hunt and tell me that I'm wrong, but if you actually just put eyes on this game, I think Trey looked better today than he looked at any point during the preseason. And that's just putting optics on it. So he's only going to get better if this team believes that even now at his worst, he's at least putting him in as good a position as the other guy to win games against tough teams, which I don't see how they can argue any otherwise because this game was as close as the other two. Then you have to go with him going forward, but they're not going to. Again, I don't trust Kyle with any big decision-making abilities. So I'm going to say that they probably are going to start the other guy.
Can we be a little conspiratorial right now, Jesse?
Yeah, let's do it. I love conspiracies.
So there was a team last season that had a very similar situation going on.
Okay.
And that team was the Philadelphia Eagles. They had a guy in Carson Wentz that a lot of the team felt like did enough to have them go on that Super Bowl run. He obviously got injured in that run. Nick Foles ended up, taking them and winning. But there was a certain point of that locker room that was really behind Carson Wentz because of his MVP caliber season that he had up until that injury. Then they had drafted this guy, Jalen Hurts. And he was this weapon that they had that some of the guys felt, hey, maybe this guy could help us win because Carson Wentz was not playing very well. And what ended up happening that season, right? Their coach, Doug Peterson, who was a Super Bowl winning coach, felt like he wanted to be the guy that made the decision like the coach should. And he said, look, we're benching Carson Wentz and we're playing Jalen Hurts. What ended up happening was that locker room fell apart. There was Team Wentz, there was Team Hurts. And what happened to Doug Peterson? He's no longer a head coach in the NFL, right? And this is 2 years after winning the Super Bowl. Kyle Shanahan has never won a Super Bowl. Kyle Shanahan has only had one winning season in the first 4 years of him being the coach. Is Kyle Shanahan afraid of making a decision that could lose the locker room? Because that is his only claim to fame, is that this culture and this team are united and fight and are all behind each other, and everybody loves everybody. And if he makes this choice, which he might feel like is a better choice for winning, he's afraid this might be a reason why I lose my job.
That's a possibility. I'll say this. If they don't beat the Colts, he risks losing the locker room regardless of who he starts. So if he wants to go with the incumbent starter, the other guy, then he still risks losing the locker room if they lose. The thing about winning is it covers up all flaws. All teams have flaws. And I'm not saying that you've got a bunch of guys that are going to call for Kyle's head right away, that they feel so strongly that you should start Trey. But all of these guys are humans. And regardless of who it is that they think they should start, there's a lot of players on this team that think they should start the other guy, and there's a lot of players on this team that they think that they should start Trey. And those feelings may not be strong enough one way or another to uproot a locker room, but the moment that you start losing, you start to lose trust in what a coach does. It's a possibility. And I said it, if Jimmy had started this week and they had lost, that would have been the worst case scenario for this team, because they would have been 2-3, which is what they are now. And they would have rolled with the same starter in every single one of those games. And coming up on a bye week, players have more free time, which means they're on social media more and they are being interviewed more. So a lot of chinks in that armor would be put out on blast, I believed, during this time. Now, he got kind of a bone thrown to him with this injury that they were able to use and start Trey. And so now you got to see what it's like on both sides of the ball. But, it's just one of those things that there's a preference. It doesn't matter who it is. There is a preference, and every player on this team has one. At what point do those voices get loud enough that it uproots a locker room? I don't know. But if you come out and lose to the Colts after a bye week and you are 2-4, I think that you start to hear those whispers.
I'm gonna make have a hot take right now. There will be some drama that comes out about the 49ers during this bye week. You heard it here first on So Real Sports Talk.
Listen, I don't disagree with you, because players talk a lot during bye weeks. So if there's going to be anything that comes out, this is the time for sure.
Yes, and we've been hearing rumblings about them doing some stuff bubbling over. I think that if there was a win this game, that would have silenced all of it. But this is, to me, the worst case scenario, going into the bye week on a 3-game losing streak when everybody on this team feels like there's playoff aspirations. That, to me, means there's going to be finger pointing. There's going to be a lot of chaos, a lot of confusion, and something's going to come out this week. And we'll be here to talk about it because, that's what we do, baby. That's what we do. Jessie, I know everybody is waiting to hear an update on what's going on with your situation with YouTube. What is the play, and how can these guys support?
Well, the update is there is no update. YouTube has not gotten back to me, and I have no idea where we stand. They said it would be 2 business days. Sometimes it could take longer. It's now been 3 business days, and Monday will be the 4th. So hopefully I hear back. We'll see. We'll see how long I wait. If I don't hear an answer this week, I might just go full bore and say, let's just start a new channel. So here's what I'll say. Anybody that wants to support for now, just follow me on Twitter. As soon as I have an announcement one way or another, I will throw it out on Twitter. And I need everybody to like that message when it comes out, and to retweet it and get it out to the masses, especially if I'm starting a new channel. I'm going to need everybody's support to get anywhere close to what we were before, which was near 3,000 subs. So I appreciate everybody who supported me to this point. I appreciate everybody that's going to support me going forward. And as soon as I have an announcement, you guys will be the first to hear about it.
I love it. And in the meantime, Jessie has always an open invitation on this channel to get his thoughts out. And, we're going to be talking 49ers. And, yeah, we know Jessie's bouncing back, man. Jessie's one of some of the glue that holds this unit together. I guess wait and see right now as far as Jessie's schedule next week. I know obviously you're going to be on Grant's show. You're going to do Hammer and Nails. Hopefully maybe we could get you on here, maybe somewhere at the end of the week, so that you can do kind of a prediction thing if your channel isn't up and running by then. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I think it's halftime at the Sunday night game. So you got some time to kind of recoup and then catch the second half of what I think is going to be a pretty good, exciting second half with the Bills in Kansas City. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Jessie, any last words?
Yeah, let me say this. One way that you can support as well is just make sure that you subscribe and like this channel. Make sure you hit that bell notification so you never miss any of Sunil's stuff. Right now, I'm living vicariously through all my guys. So Jackhammer, obviously Grant, Sunil, Amin, everybody who's out there making content that I've been on their channels and have supported me, I'm living vicariously through them. So I know that Sunil, you've cracked 600. I would like to see him to get to 700. That would make me feel really, really good. Like I said, if I can't have my own for now, then I'm going to live vicariously through these guys. So make sure that you support Sunil and make sure that you follow him on Twitter, tweet out his stuff, and get one friend to come over and subscribe to his stuff. That'd be a win for him. Appreciate you guys.
I appreciate it, Jesse. That's why we ride for you, my dude. That's the kind of love we want to give back to Jesse. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys have a great night. I know it's somber notes. We really invested in this team, and it's not looking good as of now. But hey, the grass is always greener on the other side. We have a bye week. We still have a lot of football to be played. Let's all band together and hope for the best. Jesse, thank you so much for taking the time, my guy. Everybody else, thank you so much for being active in the comment section. Stay safe, stay hydrated, and we shall see you very, very soon. Good night.